Just it just gives them that extra credibility that Polkadot have done their due diligence. They wouldn't have invested, they wouldn't have funded Akala if they didn't think that they're going to perform. And if they don't perform, then so be it. Tough luck.
Right.
There's no 100% sure insurance in crypto anyway.
Thank you to my sponsor, Cake Wallet, where you can store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero safely on your iOS and Android devices. MetalPay, how banking was meant to be. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited today because I have another crypto content creator here on the channel with me to dive deeper into PolkaDot, which is not something that we've really talked about much here on the channel yet. So I've got Claudio, who runs the Kryptos Chain channel. So Claudio, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
So we'll definitely talk about your channel and everything you're doing and all the great work that you are putting into crypto education. But what we're here to mainly talk about today, and I'm excited to actually really dive more into, is PolkaDot, because that's something that you've become a big part of their community and have really made a lot of great content about PolkaDot. And so just to kind of kick off, can you give us a high-level overview of what PolkaDot is, and then we can kind of dive into it from there?
Yeah, so we can start off by explaining this in simple terms, and that's like, think of Polkadot as a whole ecosystem, and a whole ecosystem of trying to make blockchains interoperable with each other. So you could think of having Polkadot as the central system, which is basically controlling everything. Well, you may argue, because you're saying, well, why would you control it? Because we need to run away from centralization, but it's not like that. It's basically a relay chain, which is Polkadot. And then within that relay chain, we've got these small parachains. And you could think of parachains as configurable blockchains, pretty much, right? Customizable. So what happens is, say a company like Ontology or Neo decide to migrate to one of these parachains because they no longer want to use their native blockchain. So what they can do is they can start building on the platform on the framework called Substrate, which is part of Polkadot's ecosystem, and then they'll create this parachain. But in order to have a parachain, you actually need to take part of an auction. So to take part of through an auction, you actually need to stake dot coins, or lock them up, we could say, for a certain period of time. So when you say stake, you don't actually get rewarded for it. You lock them up for up to 2 years in order to get that parachain slot. So it may seem a bit complicated, but for holders of the Polkadot coin, it's actually really beneficial, because you're removing a lot of these coins from circulation, right? So imagine if you have a bunch of parachains, all of them locking up DOT, and then you've got people that are voting for these parachain auctions in order to get the parachains bonded, then you're going to remove a lot of DOT from circulation. So I think that's the big benefit to the whole ecosystem. And you may be thinking, well, what's the big difference? Why is it so big and so important? Well, it's interoperable. So the whole point of the parachain ecosystem is that traditional blockchains and also parachains within each other, they can actually communicate, and they can share stuff like, for example, smart contract information, non-fungible tokens, any kind of transactional information. So in the future, the good thing about this is that you no longer have to rely on only one blockchain to do your transactions, but you can swap in and out and do cross-chain swaps between other blockchains for items, for all sorts of stuff. So I think this is very important, because this is the way we're moving forward. And I know that they do have a competitor as well, which is Cosmos, but there always has to be competition. So you can never be 100% sure that one project is going to succeed. But I feel confident about Polkadot because the founder is Gavin Wood, who's the co-founder of Ethereum. And he also wrote Solidity, which is the programming language that Ethereum was developed in. So this pretty much just tells you how big Polkadot could be, the potential.
So I kind of want to walk through how this works from two different perspectives, because you mentioned Neo and Ontology. Like, let's say they wanted to use one of these power chains. And so if I am an existing project, let's say I'm Neo, and I want to kind of get involved in this, what's the benefit to me versus continuing to use my own native chain? And then let's say that I was a new project and I was deciding whether I wanted to build my own native chain or build on top of another, ecosystem? Like, why would I use PolkaDot? So sorry, those are such big questions, but those are kind of the two
no
things
worries.
I'm curious
I think I didn't give the right example here. I think the best example that I could have given was that Ontology and Neo, because they're so well developed, they don't really want to do that. So what they can do is they can actually connect to PolkaDot as a native blockchain, and then they can communicate with other blockchains, which are the parachains on PolkaDot. The parachains are mostly for brand new projects.
Okay.
Or maybe projects that have started off but have not been doing so well on their own, so they've decided to move to PolkaDot. So it's more for those sort of projects. And I think that the big advantage that you've got with PolkaDot is that obviously the transactions are much faster. We've got high transaction speeds. But aside from that is the interoperability aspect, right? Because you're given that flexibility, and also you can take advantage of the tools that they've got, which are configurable, which are basically adaptable to your needs. So you don't have to spend as much time as a developer to think of how to develop a tool, because you can use the existing tools that are there.
Got it. So in terms of like the consensus mechanism and the governance structure, can you kind of walk us through how PolkaDot is set up?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually a proof of stake ecosystem, but it's not so straightforward as just a plain proof of stake, because it can become more complicated. So they've actually got a voting and governance ecosystem where any kind of update that happens on PolkaDot needs to be voted for by the community. But before that, there is usually a proposal being sent out to the blockchain, and everybody can see that proposal. They usually have like 1 week to vote. So they put in their votes by locking dot, or they don't have to lock dot if they don't want to, but if they do, they have more voting power. So that's the advantage of the whole governance ecosystem, that any kind of change can be approved or rejected. Basically, all you're doing is you're voting with a yes or a no on the actual wallet.
Got it. Okay. And so is PolkaDot fully decentralized then, or are there some central components with the team, and how does that work?
I'm not 100% sure on that, unfortunately, but I would say there is some centralization aspect for sure. I don't believe that there are any projects out there that are 100% decentralized. Probably Bitcoin, right? But other ones, they have some sort of centralization aspect.
So a lot of people, I feel like, over the years have mentioned various Ethereum killers, which isn't my favorite term. But a lot of people I've heard mention PolkaDot as a potential. Like, why do you think that people are drawing that correlation? And how do you think that the Serenity upgrade with Ethereum 2.0 might kind of change that dynamic?
Yeah, I think that the reason they're saying that is because PolkaDot is scalable. But the way they should see it is that PolkaDot and Ethereum can actually be interoperable, right? Because that's the whole point. You can connect those native blockchains, the existing ones, with the new ones. So probably, in my personal point of view, the reason why I think they're saying that they're the Ethereum killer is because of these parachains, which you could think of them as an ICO on Ethereum, except, when you're participating in an ICO, you're sending your Ethereum, you're getting those ERC20 tokens sent to you, but then you're losing that Ethereum. Whereas with parachains on PolkaDot, you're locking your dot for up to 2 years because you're voting for a specific project to bond to that parachain. And then if they're successful, they reward you in that token, but you've got the dot locked up for up to 2 years. So that means you get the token, but you also get your dot back after 2 years. So the advantage there is that you're not actually losing out. You're only losing out on the, let's say, for example, you wanted to sell that dot. Obviously, you can't because it's locked up. That's the only thing you're losing out on, possible value gains from that aspect. But then you've got the token anyway. So, in my personal point of view, I think that they're not really trying to kill Ethereum, but more they're trying to work together eventually. So I think that they're going to be interoperable.
I'm glad you mentioned ERC20 tokens, because one thing I'm kind of curious about with the dynamic between these differences is, a lot of tokens that end up being scam tokens are ERC20 tokens because they're fairly easy to create. Do you think that having to lock up DOT for 2 years should help reduce the amount of kind of scammy type of coins that are built on top of PolkaDot, or what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I don't think that that's going to do it 100% either.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely going to be some kind of scams in some way, shape, or form. And I think that where the scams will actually come into place is the moment when they're actually say that they're building on PolkaDot, they're building within the framework of PolkaDot, but they're not actually applying to be a parachain. So the
Oh,
difference
okay.
there is that they don't actually have to. They can just use the framework to be interoperable with Polkadot, but they don't have to be a parachain. So they're not like actually building a blockchain. They're just maybe like a small dApp or something.
Mm,
So there could be potential scams there. And I think that there are some already out there. I don't want to name any because
right.
I have no proof, but it's just my suspicions.
Mm.
So yeah, I definitely think that there will be scams. We're not getting away from those, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think there's any
Especially
way to
the
completely.
yeah, especially the food ones and the DeFi ones, the breakthrough ones. So yeah.
It's true. Be safe out there, kids. So, um, what kind of dApps or like different projects are being built on top of Polkadot now? Like, what are some of the different types of projects that you've seen kind of come out of that ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is Akala Network. I know that I've done a tutorial on how their DeFi dApp actually works. Akala are basically a DeFi dApp, but they're being funded by Polkadot, so that's why I'm super bullish on them.
Mm,
Just it just gives them that extra credibility that Polkadot have done their due diligence. They wouldn't have invested, they wouldn't have funded Akala if they didn't think that they're going to perform. And if they don't perform, then so be it. Tough luck.
right.
There's no 100% sure insurance in crypto anyway, but it gives you that extra credibility, right? That the project has huge potential. And not only that, but they're also partnering with all these other companies building on DOT. So we're seeing Akala kind of become an own ecosystem within the DeFi space, but mostly focusing on Polkadot. So you can actually, did a tutorial on the app, and again, do check it out. I don't know if Leah, if you wanna post a link in the description of this video,
Hmm.
or maybe just
Yeah.
check out my channel and search for the Akala Mandala tutorial. It actually shows you how you can take a loan in crypto by using other crypto assets as collateral, such as Bitcoin, for example. And you may be asking yourself, well, how can you use Bitcoin if we don't have that cross-chain functionality yet? Well, they've actually got a token which is pegged to Bitcoin within the DOT ecosystem for now. So you'll be
Oh,
able to use
interesting.
that. Yeah, so you'll be able
Hmm.
to use that in order to get your to use as collateral in order to get your loan. But I think that Akala is the biggest one in my personal point of view. And then the second biggest, which have already been around since I think they've been building from before kind of like the end of last year, but they've really come on top from the start of this year. And that is Kusama.
Mm.
Kusama are like the canary network of Polkadot. So any kind of change that goes onto Polkadot first gets deployed onto Kusama. So you could think of them as the testing platform,
Yeah.
but they're also building as an independent ecosystem. So think of it like Polkadot in the miniature version, basically. So it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to have parachain auctions. We're going to have parachains. We're going to have interoperable blockchains, and some of them will only be building on Kusama.
Mm.
So Kusama is still under the radar, I should say, not really under the radar, but undervalued in terms of the market cap. At the moment, I think it's like 200 million versus Polkadot, which went to like 5 billion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a huge gap there, but that's also due to the lower supply and the fact that people didn't really care about it because they thought it's just a test network. Nobody's going to use it. But in the end, actually, a lot of people were surprised when it came to it because the price has been doing extremely well. It went from like $1 in January
Mm.
to over $60. So that's 60x there in
Wow.
like 6-7 months. So when people found out how big it is, it's like, oh my God, why didn't I get in? So I've got some people in my community that are still having second thoughts and regrets that they didn't get in from January when they've heard of it. So,
I think we
these
all
things
have
just happen.
those tokens that we're like, I don't know, and then you know,
Yeah,
that's just part of being in crypto. I don't think you're in crypto unless you have some regrets.
that's
So,
true. Yeah, yeah. And you just can't get them all. I mean, there are just so many out there that
right.
have huge potential and you may be missing and maybe you've heard of them, but maybe you didn't pay close attention. So
Hmm.
I think that's what's happening with Polkadot as well. And so that's
Definitely.
why one of the best places to check to be kept up to date with Polkadot projects is polkaproject.com. It is an open source website,
Mm.
but at least you can get a general idea to start off your research on projects that are building on Polkadot. And again, not all of them will be parachains,
Mhm.
just to make that clear. So you have to be careful.
Oh, that's a great resource. I'll definitely link to that below as well. So if people want to explore more things that are happening in the world of Polkadot, they can. So this has been really helpful just to get a high level overview of Polkadot. And then maybe eventually on the channel, I'll see if I can get someone from the team on as well to go like a little bit deeper. But I really appreciate you taking the time to just kind of walk us through the basics because I know I've been getting some requests from my audience to talk more about Polkadot. And so just to kind of close off, I want to give you an opportunity just to talk more about your channel and what you're building and what you're doing so that people can go find you and connect with you as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my channel is Kryptos Chain at Kryptos Chain. I'm also on Library TV, not only on YouTube, and also on BitTube and Terra recently. So just trying different places in case YouTube shuts us down one day, you know. But basically, I'm doing crypto tutorials, reviews, interviews sometimes, but I haven't done one in a long time. And sometimes I do news videos, but my main focus is reviews and tutorials.
Awesome. Well, everyone go check Claudio out. Go check his channel out. I'll link to it below so that everyone can find you. And so, Claudio, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much as well. It's been great.